Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, coming to you from the Overflow Room with Dave's Faves. And one of the discs that overflew, or overflowed, or whatever you want to say about it, I was kind of surprised to find it here because I love it. I really love it. And I used to listen to it all the time because it overflew and it's in a different state than I'm usually in. I get to hear it less. But I saw it immediately when I came back here, and I just, wow. And I thought to myself, my goodness, why haven't I been listening to this? And I just put it on, and I just listened to it, and I loved it. I loved it as much as I loved it when I first heard it, and it's a bit of a rarity. It's William Alwyn piano music with John Ogdon. This had to have been one of his last recordings. It was made in 1985 on LP. Remember those? And then issued on CD, according to this, in 93, somewhere around there. It's the Fantasy Waltzes and the 12 Preludes. These were composed in 1956 and 1959, respectively. The Fantasy Waltzes, in particular, they're a masterpiece. They really are. You get 11 of them, which is an interesting prime number. And Ogden plays them just beautifully, very, very beautifully. He was such a champion of unusual repertoire and interesting composers. And William Alwyn, when this came out in the 80s, my goodness, nobody knew who William Alwyn was. I mean, there were some recordings of things on Lyrita, and then Chandos started to do a complete symphony cycle and other orchestral works. Really, I think they've got his complete orchestral works by now. Alwyn lived from, let's just get the dates right, 1905 to 1985. So this was made actually in the year of his death. And he was an aesthete. That has to be the word. A man of extraordinary culture and refinement and knowledge. And he spent most of his career, as did his wife, who was also a composer, writing film music. And he was a very good film music composer. Some of that is also available on Chandos, and maybe we'll talk about some of those titles at some point. He was a craftsman and a thoughtful composer. As a composer of serious music or classical music, he was not in particular a melodist. He was what would you call it? Sort of a harmonic groupingist. He would take certain harmonies and or little motivic patterns and work them up organically into larger forms. So you don't listen to his symphonies and things for the tunes, but of course, being a film music composer, he was also a master orchestrator of his own music in any case. And his music is not necessarily thematic in the traditional sense, but it's quite tonal and extremely listenable. And the Fantasy Waltzes, I just love these pieces. The Fantasy Waltzes are noteworthy for their Frenchness, their Frenchosity. There are some numbers in here that sound like they could have been written by a latter-day Ravel. They really do. They sound a lot like the Valse Noble et Sentimentale by Ravel, if you know those. The Preludes are a little bit in a slightly different style, but just as enjoyable. I mean, they're very, very nice and a great deal of fun. And if you like sets of, 12 preludes, presumably in different keys. Let's see if they're in different keys. E flat, A major, A. No, they're not in different keys. They're not in all the major and minor keys or anything like that. They're not as systematic. They actually repeat a bunch of keys, but that's okay. They group them, because that actually is more in keeping with Alwyn's own compositional practice to work with, harmonic centers and go out from there. But anyway, these are just beautiful works, incredibly beautiful works. They're beautifully recorded, wonderfully played, and I just recommend them very strongly. If you're a pianophile and you like these character pieces, piano character pieces like the Chopin waltzes and the Chopin preludes, this is part of just a grand tradition of piano writing. And Alwyn, like I said, is not a household name. He's not terribly well known. He's not terribly well known as a composer for the keyboard, but he was good at everything he did. Really very good and very just elevated in style. You can't listen to his music and not think that here was a guy who really knew how to write, who knew what he wanted to say, who said it with precision and clarity and taste and all of those qualities. So, and it's also a wonderful tribute to John Ogdon, to a lifetime by an artist, a lifetime of really sort of adventurous music making by an artist who had severe emotional problems and other issues. And he's really touching. It's a touching tribute to his artistry, I think. Beautiful, beautiful disc. So give it a shot and see what you think. You may be very surprised. These are just lovely, lovely works. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you for joining me. Take care.